Oh boy, I'm gonna get in trouble for this one, aren't I? So when I got to the Venice Grand Canal Mall for MWF 9 Oras ng Liwanag, it started to rain on the outdoor event. Yeah, pretty much a sign of things to come. I don't really relish having to do this particular review because I was a huge fan of MWF last year. They put on some of my favorite storylines and matches locally, and following it from the start made me feel like I was supporting something from the ground up. It's fun. I like MWF. Definitely come to a show if you have the chance. But it's because I like MWF that I have to be honest when I talk about MWF 9. It wasn't good, guys. Perhaps the main creative issue with MWF in 2019 is a feeling that the roster has gone shallow. Last year showed us solid mid-card acts like Ninja Ryujin, Ashura, and Martivo. All three of those names did a lot to fill up the space and give a sense of hierarchy to the MWF roster. They easily bridged the gap between lower card names like RG to the higher up names such as Robin Sane and Fabio Makisig. With all three of these workers gone this year, there is a large void in the mid-card that's been filled by nameless MWF factory workers Lucha Donna and Canto Terror. While Terror is a solid over act with some name value, and Lucha Donna is steadily improving, the factory workers do create a problem for crowd investment. It's not really a good sign when someone comes out and the crowd knows to label them, "Whoop! Jobber! You're gonna lose. You're a jobber. You're definitely gonna lose." It's a little hard to get behind someone when you know they're just gonna take the pin in the end. The slimmer roster also means that a lot of acts were pretty horribly overexposed on this card. The Liwanags took up way too much space on the show, and yes, I get it, the name of the show, it's Oras ng Liwanag, they're the friends of the commit. I understand the kayfabe reason to have them on the show this much, but from a critical standpoint, their heat seemed to diminish the more and more they appeared on the show. Moises Liwanag himself was probably the most exposed by the push on this particular card. Going into the show, I pretty much dreaded having to sit through a main event title match with Moises Liwanag. And while it wasn't horrifically bad, Moises looked out of place working the main event, as the match drew most of its heat from Robin Sane's energetic comebacks. This was a match that could have done with actually even more outside interference than there already was, and it might have done well with shaving some time off of it too. Coach Gus Queens and his new lackey RG also got overexposed, taking part in at least 4 different segments between them. Part of the fun of Coach Gus in MWF Year 1 was the fact that he may only have had one promo every month, but you could bet it would be one of the funnest promos on the whole show. Now he's falling back on a more traditional, and some would say cliche, heel authority figure role that by the time his music played after the main event, I was pretty much done with him. Then of course there's Brian Leo. Now, I know that Leo is a controversial figure in the local wrestling scene. I don't know too much about it, and I don't want to really get into it. Backstage drama is a thing. It happens anywhere in the world where wrestling exists, but here's my take on it. The pop for Leo was not huge. I'd go as far as to say that a majority of the fans in attendance didn't really know who he was. So it's gonna be a bit of an uphill climb for MWF to reintroduce Leo to a new crowd of live Philippine wrestling fans, and his debut here was a bit of a misstep, at least as far as crowd reaction goes. There were some serious pacing issues on this show, and I feel like it's been somewhat of a noticeable problem in year 2 of MWF at least. Each show since the start of the year has had a bad habit of stacking up non-wrestling segments that form 20, even 30-minute chunks of time during the show. Now, such a long period without actual wrestling is risky enough when the WWE does it with their bright lights and production work, but with the limited resources of a small independent company in the Philippines, the risk is 10 times greater. It also doesn't help when the live video feeds don't have audio. The pacing issues continued in the matches themselves for me as well. Now, this particular point comes down to personal taste, but I am not really a fan of matches that overdo drama. And when I say drama, I don't mean the conflict between face and heel or the tension of a well-done near fall. I'm talking about actual, literal dialogue inside the ring. Okay, I understand that some people enjoy the overdone trash talking and exchanges in the ring, but a lot of this seems to come from what I call the Johnny Gargano school of wrestling, where we just halt the match so that the heel and face can exchange words about the meaning of their match. Yeah, I'm sorry, that's just not for me. While it is possible for spots like this to work, more often than not, I find it either confuses the crowd, kills momentum, or both. It also breaks immersion more often than not, as the need to speak in the ring directly conflicts with the urgency of simulated physical combat. RG versus Giggs and Robin versus Moises were probably the worst offenders on this front. All of this is worsened by the fact that the show was long, which leads us nicely into one of the best things about MWF Year 2 has been the fact that all the shows have been free. This encourages new fans to watch the show, gives a solid value to your experience, especially when international talent like Tajiri flies in, and it's generally just a great perk to have. Who doesn't like free stuff? But as any freshman economics major will tell you, there's no such thing as free lunch. Which basically means that every single transaction and exchange of goods will have some kind of trade-off regardless. Unfortunately, at MWF 9, that trade-off came at the cost of the fluidity of the show. There were so many non-wrestling segments. And by non-wrestling, I don't even mean promos and video packages. I mean literal segments that more or less have nothing to do with wrestling. There was the Stop Kiss plug that at least tried to incorporate storyline by having Coach Gus come out to be a homophobe. By the way, we as a wrestling culture have to have a serious discussion about the continued use of literal sexual assault as a babyface move. Just because the person being harmed deserves it doesn't make it okay. I feel like this is a whole other video for some other time though, so we'll get back to that in the future. Maybe. Then we had 2 extended segments featuring the Spider-Man cosplayers, and this is no knock on any of the cosplayers who showed up. It's not their fault that they were placed in the middle of a professional wrestling show. And hell, the crowd was polite enough not to boo, and they even cheered when they could muster the energy, but these segments went on forever. And I get it. Sponsors are essential to keeping a show free and to keep a company running, but when they intrude on the product in this way, it causes problems. It stunted the flow of the show, and it made it hard to recover the energy that got burnt out during these segments. Even though there are aspects of the Youngbloods act that I just don't get, that being most of their act, I can't deny that I appreciate them bumping around and getting ragdolled by Rex. It's a simple enough heel-face dynamic that it works. RG has absolutely settled into this brilliant heel turn, and his charisma has shined through now better than it ever has. As a character, he's awesome. White Shirt Jobber got some skills, yo! What's your name, boy? Jomar continues to improve in the ring, and his dedication to taking on a Japanese-influenced style really helps to bring some life and legitimacy to the show. Robin Sane may lean on his Johnny Gargano spots a little too heavily, but when he does get moving, it can bring back some heat to even the most sluggish of heat segments. One of the best babyface comeback workers in the country. Tarek took to Facebook after the show and pointed out many of the criticisms I lined out in this video. It's nice to see that management is aware of some of the problems with their product, and I can only hope that means good things for the promotion going forward. Also, Ho-Ho vs. Sane next month. Yes, I'm in. I'll be there. This was probably my least favorite MWF show so far. It's still a generally fun, live experience, but I could personally feel the energy zapping out of the crowd as the show progressed. A lot of that was just pure and simple fatigue from how long the show went. The rest might have something to do with the issues I outlined in this video. Personally, I'm looking forward to Ho-Ho Loon and Robin Sane's rematch next month. This particular show, however, felt like an unnecessary step to get there, and I can't really say that anyone not in attendance missed much. Hey everybody, thank you so much for tuning in for another wrestling video. If you guys want to watch some live stand-up comedy, please be sure to find me on facebook.com/TheJosephMontecillo. If you like this video, leave me a like, leave a comment, share it with your friends, hit the subscribe button. Thank you so much for watching, and have a good one.